Well, I'd love to share with you a tool that we've been calling our Discipleship Pathway. It's what it looks like for us to engage our faith, to grow in our faith, if that's something that you've been wanting to do. You'll remember, perhaps, that the way we've been talking about discipleship is that it's the process of becoming more of who God has created us to be. And because God has created each of us individually and uniquely, all of our journeys of discipleship are going to look so different. And yet, I have recognized in my own ministry and in my own life of faith that there are certain seasons of faith that we tend to experience. And so here's a full version of the discipleship pathway that we'll go over. But what I'd like to do right now is just share with you a brief clip from a sermon a few weeks ago that highlights these 4 big seasons of faith that we experience. Here we go. Again, I want to talk about 4 seasons in your life of discipleship, in this pathway of discipleship. The first is the season of desiring a faith. This is something that I believe we all kind of share. Even if all we have is the desire to desire, I believe that many of us have a desire for faith. We want something, we're seeking out, even if we don't know what it is. It's like we're hungering after it. And this is a really beautiful place to be in our journey of discipleship. We're looking for something that we know we are designed, hardwired to want and to need. We might not know exactly what it is or how to get it, but we know that we want to be on the journey. The second sort of season of discipleship, I would say, is a season when we learn how to kind of believe in faith. So we move from desiring a faith to believing in faith. And when I say believing in faith, it's kind of the early way that we begin to understand who Jesus is and what Jesus has done for us. We begin to learn about Jesus' saving grace in our lives. We begin to sort of understand, come to a fuller knowledge of God. And I say knowledge of God, not just in terms of a head knowledge, but we begin to build a relationship through Jesus with the divine, with the holy, something that maybe before we just knew how to desire. Now we begin to know it. It begins to take shape and take form. And I think, at this point in time, even if we have a really solid belief, we're believing in faith, sometimes our life can still be kind of clunky. We have this idea, we have this knowledge, we have the beginning of a relationship. We just don't know always yet how to fully apply it. Then, as we move out of that season, we move into a season, probably closer to over here, that I call living by faith. And this is when the faith that we learn to believe in, that faith that we learn to have in this sort of second season, really begins to find its way into every aspect of our life among one another. I think a lot of times we are going to experience, as it's filtering in everything, that we begin to find ourselves in communities that can help us sort of live by faith. It becomes more natural. If you think of someone learning to dance, I can remember having to learn in high school or middle school, how to do the box step, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And at first you're counting and you're watching your feet and you're stepping on each other's toes. That's the second season of faith, right? Believing in faith. But as you learn to live in faith, it becomes much more natural for you. And then finally, as we move into the kind of that last season of faith, it's where we begin to learn how to lead others to faith. We've learned how to kind of dance that dance, and now we can begin to teach others how to do that. And so we begin to talk to the people who are desiring a faith. And so I think that this whole thing right here is kind of the pathway. This is what the growth in grace looks like for us. God gives us the grace before we know that we've earned it or deserved it, before we've even known to ask for it. It gives us the desire to desire. That grace begins to work in our life. It's a justifying grace. It sets us right with God. We would say that in this place here, we are saved by God's saving grace. Then we're going to go on to perfection, into that sanctifying grace, to all the beautiful work that God does, perfecting us in love. And then we're going to have the opportunity to show that love, to demonstrate that love to others and help them follow along behind us in our own journey of faith. Again, not everybody's journey is going to look exactly the same, and not everybody's journey is going to go, just as textbook as this. And I'm not even saying that all of this is exactly right. I'm just saying these are patterns that I've seen emerge. And so I want to encourage you to consider what it would look like to be a part of that journey, to take steps along that journey of faith, that pathway of discipleship for you. So maybe you can begin by asking some questions like, where are you right now? What season of life are you in? What season of discipleship are you in? And then what do you need? Do you need to be engaged in a meaningful relationship, inspired to take the next step? Do you need to be empowered to own your own faith? Do you need to be equipped so that you can lead others? What is it that you need right now so that we can work together to help figure that out?